Welcome to Comcoding, your weekly cybersecurity show where we cut through the noise. Our mission is simple. Take all the latest news, the research, our notes, and give you the key insights you need. Think of it as your shortcut to staying sharp on the digital world. And today, we got some really critical updates. We're looking at urgent vulnerability warnings, some big shifts in national cyber defense, and, well, privacy too. We'll dig into new threats, try to understand the global strategies at play, and maybe highlight how you can stay a bit safer. Okay, let's jump right in because this first one needs immediate attention. It's a critical alert from CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And this isn't just a heads up, it's about a new vulnerability that's, well, already being actively exploited out there. It's called CitrixBleed 2. Now, this bug, CVE 2025-5777, has a critical severity rating, 9.3 out of 10. That's really high. The technical term is insufficient input validation. Now, for those of us not deep in network security daily, can you maybe break down why that specific flaw in something like a Citrix NetScaler device is such a massive problem?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge deal. And it sounds complex, but think of it like this. Imagine a security guard at a really important building who's just not checking IDs properly, or maybe not at all. That's kind of what insufficient input validation means here. The system isn't checking the data coming in carefully enough, so malicious instructions, bad data, it just slips right through. And when that happens on devices like Citrix NetScaler ADC and Gateway, which are supposed to be managing and securing traffic well, it means attackers can potentially grab really sensitive stuff from the device's memory. We're talking session tokens, usernames, passwords, other user data. And crucially, they can do it without needing any login credentials, like that guard just waving strangers into a restricted area.
That's a great way to put it. Makes it very clear. And this isn't just theory, right? CISA added it to their Known Exploited Vulnerabilities list, the KEV catalog, on July 10th. That was fast. But what really caught my eye, and I think everyone's, was CISA's reaction. They gave federal civilian agencies just 24 hours, one day. Either patch it or stop using the software entirely. That's way faster than the usual 21 days they give for these things.
Yeah, that 24-hour window is basically a siren going off. It signals just how immediate and significant CISA views this risk. I mean, for any large organization, even federal agencies, patching something critical that quickly is a huge, huge challenge. It really highlights the gap sometimes between a patch being available and actually getting it deployed everywhere. It says a lot about the potential damage they foresaw. And it really poses that question, doesn't it, for you listening? How fast can your organization realistically react when something this urgent drops?
Exactly. And the reports that followed were worrying too. Citrix got a patch out quickly, which is good. But even so, multiple security firms, ReliaQuest, Watchtower, Horizon 3.ai, they were all warning about ongoing attacks.
Yeah.
Akamai saw a drastic increase in scanning for vulnerable systems. It seems like a lot of systems were still unpatched, even with the warnings. The attackers are just moving faster. Okay, so we've got these immediate fire drill type threats like CitrixBleed 2. But thinking about that intense CISA deadline, does that maybe hint at the bigger picture, the sort of strategic nation-state level games going on?
I think it absolutely does. That kind of rapid response often connects to these larger, long-term strategic concerns, especially when you look at actors like Volt Typhoon. Now, Volt Typhoon is a known Chinese state-sponsored group, and their main goal isn't typically smash-and-grab data theft. No, they're playing a longer game. They aim for what's described as long-term invisible persistence inside critical U.S. infrastructure. Basically, setting up shop quietly, deep inside networks, maybe waiting for a trigger event, like a potential conflict over Taiwan, laying digital tripwires.
And we've seen proof they can get in, right? There was that incident in Massachusetts at the Littleton Electric Light and Water Departments. They were in the OT network, the operational technology, the systems controlling the actual physical equipment.
Not just the office computers.
For 10 months back in 2023. And then targeting Guam Power Authority more recently in January 2025. But there is some positive news here. Christina Walter from the NSA's Cybersecurity Collaboration Center, she said they were not successful in that campaign. Basically, they were found.
Right. Through collaboration, private sector, FBI, they got booted out, which is a win defensively.
Definitely a defensive win. But let's shift gears to the other side of the coin, the offensive strategy from the U.S. We saw President Trump's one big, beautiful bill putting aside $1 billion over 4 years specifically for offensive cyber operations. Now, what does that typically mean, these offensive ops, and where do you think this money and focus might be aimed?
Well, Offensive cyber usually involves things like finding and exploiting software weaknesses in adversary systems, deploying spyware, gathering intelligence, collecting internet traffic data. It's about proactively getting inside their networks. Given the current geopolitical climate, yeah, the strong likelihood is that this is about boosting capabilities for the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. And the primary target there would likely be China. What's really interesting, though, is the timing. This big offensive investment happened alongside some, well, pretty strange things happening with the overall federal cyber budget. Mass federal layoffs, a huge cut over $1.2 billion proposed for the cyber budget, although some of that was later reversed. It's a weird mix.
Yeah, that is a contradiction. Cutting the defensive side, or at least parts of it, while pouring money into offense.
It strongly suggests a strategic pivot, you know? We've apparently seen a pause in U.S. offensive cyber ops against Russia recently. So this funding, combined with that pause, points pretty clearly towards shifting focus towards China. But this kind of aggressive posture, well, it has critics. Senator Ron Wyden raised a big concern. He basically said, look, vastly expanding U.S. government hacking invites retaliation. And that retaliation might not just hit federal agencies. It could hit, rural hospitals, local governments, small companies, places that really can't defend against a nation-state attack.
That's a sobering thought. So we're seeing this push and pull, defensive wins like kicking out Volt Typhoon, but also this major strategic bet on offensive power. It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? What are the long-term consequences of this offensive focus for global stability online and, well, for you listening? Okay, so from those high-level nation-state games, let's zoom back in a bit. Let's talk about how attackers are targeting individuals or companies through the software supply chain, and also how some companies are really trying hard to build trust in this environment. First up, this contagious interview campaign. Sounds like something out of a spy novel, but it's reportedly North Korean hackers. What's their method here?
Yeah, this one is quite clever and pretty concerning. It blends social engineering with the supply chain attack. So the hackers pretend to be recruiters or HR managers. They reach out on places like LinkedIn, Telegram, Discord, platforms professionals use. Their targets are job seekers, often developers. And here's the trap. They give the job seeker a test assignment. But to do the assignment, you have to download and run a software package from the NPM registry. And of course, that package is loaded with malware. NPM, for anyone who doesn't know, is this huge public library where developers share code. It's built on trust, which makes it a prime target.
And they weren't just doing this once or twice. They put dozens of these malicious packages. The report mentions 67 in one wave, after 35 earlier. And cumulatively, over 17,000 downloads. That's a lot of potential victims.
It really is. And the motivation seems twofold. Cyber espionage, so stealing secrets, and also financial theft. Reports suggest the money funds state activities, possibly including their weapons programs. They use a variety of malware too, tools like Beavertail for stealing info, others like ExoIndex Loader, Hexivol, Invisible Ferret for getting deeper access. And it's tough to stop because, as researchers say, it's like whack-a-mole. You take down one package, another slightly different one pops up almost immediately. It's a constant battle.
It sounds exhausting, just tracking it. Okay, so that's the threat side. But let's flip to the trust side. We've got companies like ExpressVPN trying to show they can be trusted. They just completed their 23rd independent audit. 23. The latest was by KPMG, confirming their privacy claims as of February 2025. How big a deal is it for a VPN company to keep doing these audits?
Oh, it's a very big deal. 23 audits. That's a serious commitment. In the VPN world, trust is absolutely critical, right? You're routing all your traffic through them. But proving trustworthiness is hard. So these repeated, independent, third-party audits are probably the best way they have to demonstrate transparency. And KPMG confirmed their main claim that they don't log identifiable information, as their policy states. They specifically looked at their trusted server setup. It's not just ticking a box, it's verification.
And that trusted server tech sounds interesting too. Developed back in 2019, the idea is the servers run only on RAM, so nothing permanent gets stored. When the server reboots, everything is wiped, and a fresh verified software stack loads up. Apparently, KPMG found no exception noted when they audited that system.
Right, and that no exception noted is what you want to see. Running entirely in RAM is a significant technical step to minimize the risk of data sticking around. It makes accidental logging or data retention after a compromise much less likely. It's core to delivering on that no-log promise. As their CISO, Aaron Engel, put it, it's not just a checkbox, it's fundamental to building trust. Now, it's important to remember no-log doesn't mean zero data. They still need your email for your account, maybe aggregate data like how many people are on a server for load balancing. But the key is that data shouldn't identify you or what you're doing online. So you have this really interesting contrast, don't you? These sneaky, sophisticated social engineering attacks targeting developers, and then these very public, proactive efforts by companies like ExpressVPN using audits to build user confidence. It really brings up a core question for all of us today. In this digital age where trust is so easily broken, how much of the burden is on the service provider to prove they're secure versus how much is on you, the user, to check those claims?
That's a really good question. Okay, finally, let's look at how governments are trying to shore up their defenses against this constantly changing threat landscape. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, the NCSC, just announced something new, the Vulnerability Research Initiative, or VRI. So the goal here is for NCSC to partner up with outside cybersecurity experts, companies, individual researchers to find vulnerabilities in all sorts of tech, common stuff, and specialized systems. Why this move towards external partnerships now? The NCSC themselves basically said vulnerability research is getting harder. What's driving that?
They are spot on, and it's a really important admission, I think. It shows that even a well-resourced national agency realizes it can't possibly keep up alone anymore. Technology is just evolving too fast. Software is more complex, everything's interconnected, things like IoT devices are everywhere. And now you add AI into the mix. It creates a huge, constantly expanding attack surface. Finding the flaws, the vulnerabilities is getting significantly harder and requires more specialized skills. So the VRI is essentially NCSC saying, we need help. We need to tap into the expertise that exists outside our walls. It's about augmenting their capacity.
Right. Makes sense. So the VRI aims to help NCSC understand the vulnerabilities better, figure out how to fix them, and also learn how these external experts do their research, what tools they use. The hope is it boosts NCSC's own research ability and spreads that knowledge across the whole UK cyber research community. They're building a dedicated team for tech experts, relationship managers, project managers, and they're already looking ahead, planning to bring in more specialists to focus specifically on AI vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and this kind of initiative, I think, could really start to redefine what we mean by national security in the digital age. It's moving away from just a purely government-run defense posture to something more collaborative, more networked. It acknowledges that often it's the private sector or independent researchers who find these critical flaws first. Building these partnerships could be a model for how nations try to stay ahead. And it leads to another question for you listening. As tech like AI races forward, how do these collaborative security models change what national cyber defense actually means for you?
And that brings us to the end of another deep dive here on Calm Coding. Wow, we covered a lot today. From that urgent CitrixBleed 2 warning, through the complexities of nation-state cyber like Typhoon and the U.S. offensive shift down to those sneaky NPM supply chain attacks. And then looking at efforts to build trust, like ExpressVPN's audits, and new government defense strategies like the UK's VRI.
Yeah, the big takeaway, I think, is just how dynamic everything is. The landscape shifts constantly, the threats get smarter. So staying informed, really trying to understand these different facets, the attacks, the defenses, the motivations, it's just crucial for everyone, for you.
Absolutely. And as you think over what we've discussed, here's maybe one last provocative thought to leave you with. In a world where we see nation-states actively developing and potentially using offensive cyber weapons, where even our essential infrastructure is in the crosshairs, how do we, as individuals, effectively protect our own corner of the digital world, and how do we maybe contribute to that larger collective defense?
Something to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us for this discussion on the latest in cybersecurity. Stay safe out there, stay informed, and we will be back next week with more essential insights right here on Calm Coding.